never imagined that the smallest moments of my childhood would plant the seeds of heartbreak. There she was, my childhood crush, always smiling, always radiant, and somehow she seemed to belong to a world I could only dream of. We spent countless afternoons playing in the park, sharing secrets that felt monumental at the time, and promising we'd always be there for each other. I remember the warmth of her laughter and the comfort of thinking that she, out of all people in the world, truly understood me. Everything felt safe, perfect, and touchable. But as the years passed, innocence became naivete, and I didn't see the subtle shifts, the tiny cracks forming beneath the surface of our friendship, the jealousy of others, the whispers behind our backs, and the unspoken desires that grew quietly between us, slowly shaped a story I wasn't prepared for. That same childhood crush, who once seemed so pure, would become the architect of my deepest betrayal. But at that time, I only knew happiness. I never questioned her motives, her sudden need to distance herself, or the way her eyes flickered whenever someone else approached me. I chalked it up to growing up, to changes in life that we couldn't control. Little did I know that innocence was just the calm before a storm that would upend everything I thought I knew about trust, friendship, and love. Looking back, the first signs were there, tiny, almost invisible, but I ignored them, blinded by affection. I wish I had seen it sooner, because the heart can be the most dangerous place to be vulnerable. And I was about to learn that lesson in the hardest way possible. It started with small things: a missed call, a curt message, a sudden silence where there had once been endless chatter. I felt the unease like a chill running down my spine, but I convinced myself it was nothing, just the ebb and flow of life. But then came the whispering, rumors that I would have sworn were impossible. People I trusted began hinting that she had changed, that her intentions weren't as pure as they seemed. And then I saw it with my own eyes, her sharing secrets I had trusted only with her, laughing about moments that were sacred to me, moments I thought were ours alone. My heart sank, a knot tightening in my chest. It was betrayal, subtle but sharp, a blade that cut deeper because it came from someone I had loved without question. I tried confronting her, trying to find answers, but she smiled that same radiant smile, one I had once adored, and dismissed my concerns with the careless wave of her hand. The more I tried to hold on, the more she pulled away, until it became undeniable. My childhood crush, the one person I had believed would never hurt me, had already chosen a different path. And with that realization came anger, sorrow, and a determination I hadn't known I possessed. I refused to crumble quietly, to let the betrayal define me. Instead, I started noticing the patterns, the lies, the subtle manipulations that had been happening all along. Every secret she revealed, every friendship she destroyed, became pieces of a puzzle I vowed to solve. The betrayal cut, but it also lit a fire inside me, a fire that would demand justice, but on my terms, in my way, and in a way that no one would forget. The anger didn't fade overnight. It simmered, growing into a quiet obsession. I spent nights replaying every moment, analyzing her actions, and planning how I could reclaim my dignity. Revenge wasn't about cruelty, it was about exposing the truth, about showing her and everyone around that betrayal could not be ignored. I started subtly, small moves that wouldn't raise suspicion, asking questions in just the right tone, pointing out contradictions in her stories, building evidence without her noticing. There was satisfaction in watching her confident falter, even just slightly. I documented everything, not out of malice, but to ensure that when the time came, nothing could be denied. I realized that revenge didn't need to be loud. It could be quiet, strategic, and devastating in its precision. I also had to protect myself emotionally. I couldn't let the bitterness consume me, or I would become what I despised. So I balanced it carefully, calm on the outside, planning ruthlessly on the inside. Every interaction with her became a chess move, responses measured, emotions controlled, all while the world still saw the same naive me they always had. And with each passing day, the plan took shape, a plan not to hurt recklessly, but to reclaim control, to restore justice in a way that was both poetic and undeniable. It wasn't about teaching her a lesson. It was about proving to myself that betrayal would not define my life, that I had the power to turn pain into strategy, heartbreak into victory, and anger into something productive. The seeds of revenge had been planted, and now they were beginning to grow in ways that would change everything. The key to revenge was subtlety. I couldn't rush it. I couldn't rely on raw emotion. I needed precision. I began speaking to her friends, those who had watched the story unfold, those who had observed the cracks but had remained silent. Little by little, the stories aligned, and I started seeing her pattern of betrayal laid bare. The more I discovered, the clearer my path became. I wasn't just fighting a single moment of deceit. I was confronting years of manipulation, secrets shared to gain trust, and actions carefully designed to undermine me. But I knew confrontation alone wouldn't suffice. It needed to be public, undeniable, and morally satisfying. I orchestrated moments that subtly revealed inconsistencies, prompting her to slip, exposing fragments of the truth. I shared stories with key people, not in anger, but with precision, letting her own actions speak louder than any accusation. And slowly, the world around us began to notice. Friends began questioning, mutual acquaintances started to see the cracks, and whispers of doubt spread like wildfire. The power wasn't in shame, it was in clarity, in letting the truth emerge naturally so that no one could deny it. I watched quietly as her confidence wavered, as people began to see her in a new light, one that matched my own revelations. And with every passing day, I felt stronger, more assured that my approach wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. The betrayal that had once felt like a crushing weight now became my tool, my weapon, and ultimately, my path to reclaiming not just my dignity, but my life. The day of reckoning came quietly, like a storm gathering on the horizon. I didn't confront her in anger. I revealed the truth in a series of small, precise steps that left no room for denial. Friends and acquaintances began asking questions, piecing together her web of deceit from the clues I had placed. Her confident smile faltered as one by one, her lies were exposed. And in that moment, I realized the true power of strategy over emotion. She was left speechless, not through yelling, not through confrontation, but through the weight of truth that she herself had created. The satisfaction wasn't in seeing her hurt, it was in knowing that justice, careful and deliberate, had been served. Watching her navigate the aftermath, trying to salvage credibility, was a reminder that betrayal always has consequences, that actions have a way of returning to the source. And as I observed silently, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief, not anger, not vengeance, but peace. Peace in knowing that I had reclaimed control, that I had turned heartbreak into empowerment, and that betrayal would no longer define me. It was a lesson in patience, in strategy, and in understanding that revenge isn't about rage, it's about restoring balance and proving, above all, that integrity can outshine deceit. Looking back, I understand now that betrayal is a painful teacher. It exposes the vulnerabilities we often ignore, the trust we place blindly, and the strength we didn't know we had. My childhood crushes actions could have destroyed me, but instead, they became the catalyst for growth. I learned to observe carefully, to act strategically, and to value truth above all else. Revenge, when guided by purpose and clarity, doesn't destroy, it restores. And as for her, she is a reminder that choices have consequences, that deceit eventually meets the light. My story isn't just about betrayal. It's about transformation, about discovering resilience, and about turning pain into empowerment. Life will always throw betrayal our way, but it is not the betrayal that defines us, it is how we respond, how we rise, and how we turn heartbreak into a path for justice, growth, and strength. The moral is simple: trust wisely, act thoughtfully, and remember that even in the darkest moments, there is a way to reclaim your power without losing yourself. Betrayal may wound, but it can never break the spirit that refuses to be defeated.